Warning, the following video contains discussions of depression and anxiety. Viewer discretion is advised. It also contains spoilers for Kingdom Hearts, but somehow that feels less relevant. Well, it's about that time of year again. It's time for me to replay through the entire Kingdom Hearts series from beginning to end. It's a series that's always a source of comfort for me, especially in times of great stress. It's a series that most definitely has its ups and downs. And speaking of downs, the one I most recently played was Chain of Memories. Aw man, what a shit show of a game that is, eh? The cards, the bizarre difficulty spikes, grinding for map rooms, the RNG, the slates that just break the game. It is, without a doubt, my least favorite game in the series to play. And yet, it is still a game I always look forward to playing. Why is that? Well, because despite it having the worst gameplay in the series, I believe it also has the best standalone story in the entire series. Or as I like to say, it's the reverse Dream Drop Distance. The story shows Sora struggle with himself as he has his perception of his memories and the people around him warped and manipulated. He is forced to question what is real and what isn't as he traverses through Castle Oblivion. The organization's schemes, the tragedy of Naminé's lonely existence, Larxene, the Step On Me Queen, it's all absolutely wonderful and I love every second of it. Sora's story in this installment, I genuinely believe, is one of the most compelling tales in video games. It's the thing that compels me through all of the tedious deck building and dragging my heels through Disney worlds that somehow have even less impact on the plot than they did in the first game. So, keeping all of that in mind, I think it says a lot that I think the second story in the game, the one focusing around Riku, is even better. Once you've cleared Sora's story, you unlock Riku's. In this, we learn that he was also traveling through Castle Oblivion, and we see what he was doing while Sora was getting traumatized by a bunch of assholes in black coats. And I'm gonna be real with you. Cut the music, I want you to listen to me. I say this with absolutely no hyperbole whatsoever. God's honest truth. But Riku's story in Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories helped me cope with my depression. But to really dissect and understand what I mean by this, we're going to have to go back one game and discuss the original Kingdom Hearts. Which I'm okay with because it's one of my favorite games of all time and it's the best in the series, but we don't have time to unpack why, don't at me. From the moment Riku first appears on the screen, we know what this boy is about. He's cool, he's cocky, he's capable, he's a classic rival character for Sora. While exploring Destiny Islands, you have the option of dueling with the other denizens of the islands. Each of them is relatively easy to beat. And then there's Riku. Riku can easily kick your ass if you go into this fight expecting the same level of competence as everyone else. Coincidentally, this will continue for every fight with Riku in the game. Your normal attack is a 3-hit combo, but Riku gets a powerful counter every 4th time he gets hit. Meaning, you'll start wailing on him, get cocky, start wailing on him again, and before you get a chance to stop your attack animation, he's already hit you with a move that takes out like a third of your health. He does not mess around. The rivalry is driven home even further when, after the fight, you see that you're keeping score. God, you want to beat him so badly! During your time in getting supplies for the raft, Riku talks about how much he dreams of what other worlds may be like, and wondering why he's here. It doesn't take long before Heartless find their way to your cozy little home, and Riku eagerly jumps into the darkness. A decision that costs him his chance of having a Keyblade. For a while, we have no idea what's become of Riku. In the final mixed version, we see that he did land somewhere, though we don't know where yet. It isn't until later that we meet up with Riku. He attempts to re-establish the status quo, telling Sora to leave everything to him. But it immediately becomes apparent that the status quo can't be returned to, as it is revealed to Riku that Sora is the one that's been chosen by the Keyblade. Sora, the one who Riku was always competing against and would always win against. Not only that, but it seems that Sora has already replaced him and Kairi with Donald and Goofy. Suddenly, Riku's perception of how this journey to other worlds was going to go has been turned on its head. I mean, would you be able to keep your cool if your best friend replaced you with a giant fucking mallard and a dog man? Not helping matters is Maleficent whispering in his ear, feeding on his insecurity that maybe he's not as needed by his friends as he once used to think. The seeds of darkness begin to take root. The next couple of times we see Riku, it's clear that he's making some bad decisions. He's spending time with people that he knows he shouldn't be. He's being manipulated by Maleficent, who's preying on his insecurities. And he's a teenage boy, so she's got a lot to work with. He's been given the power to manipulate the darkness and control Heartless. He lashes out at his friend who's just trying his best to help. Riku further and further distances himself from the people that he once used to care so much about, leaving him vulnerable to those who wish to take advantage of him. Enter Ansem. Ansem approaches Riku like a friend, offering to help, but in actuality, he's just trying to use Riku to his own ends. And he knows exactly what buttons to push to get the reaction he needs. At this point, Riku is lost. He's swimming in the darkness, unable to find a way out on his own. But it's through trusting in his friends and making himself step up to do what he needs to do that he finds some hope. This is where we find Riku at the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, determined for redemption, trying to fight off the darkness that has a hold of him, and eager to return to his friends. This is when we move on to Chain of Memories. While traveling through Castle Oblivion, Riku finds himself taunted on several fronts, from the remnants of Ansem that still rest in his heart, various mysterious organization members, and, most jarring of all, an exact replica of himself created by that organization. Each one telling him he needs to allow the darkness to take hold, or that he's afraid of the darkness, a fact he vehemently denies. He's not afraid of anything. Though this is harder and harder to deny when the person accusing him of being afraid is himself. I mean, when you have your reflection staring you in the face, gleefully repeating your past mistakes and calling you a pussy for not doing the same, it is kind of difficult to keep up your composure and a facade of coolness. Little by little, the darkness slowly starts taking hold of him once more, no matter how much he actively pushes it away. It's part of the organization's plan to drive Riku further and further into darkness, and at one point, Riku finds himself being overwhelmed with light. His reaction to the light is similar to that of other people's reaction to darkness. He describes himself as fading. But it's in this scene that Riku begins to shift his perspective on what darkness is and can be. Because while he's treating light the way that others may treat darkness, he now realizes that he can treat darkness the way that others treat light. And he follows the dark back to his friends. He accepts that darkness is a part of himself. He may have more in his heart than those around him, but that doesn't necessarily make him a bad person. It's a part of him, just as much as his light is. It's not something that needs to be feared like those on the side of light believe, and it's not something that needs to consume everything about you like those in the shadows believe. It simply is. And to deny that it's something that can be used to help him is foolish. He's so busy fighting himself and everyone around him that his strength is only ever at 50%. Max. That being said, Ansem is still a dick, and no matter how his self-perception or his worldview may have changed, he still needs to cut that manipulative bastard out of his life for good. Even after defeating him, it's still obvious that he's not totally gone. But for now, Riku has within him a balance, an understanding, a peace with the darkness within himself. He's going to go down a road that no one has ever really gone down before, which he expresses in a scene that still makes me tear up to this day.
What are you making me choose now?
Between the road to light and the road to darkness.
Neither suits me. I'm taking the middle road.
Do you mean the twilight road to nightfall?
No. It's the road to dawn.
The concept of the road to dawn is a beautiful one. You don't have to treat the darker parts of yourself as this separate antagonistic entity. Fighting against yourself in such a way is akin to punching yourself in the face repeatedly. He's learning to accept the parts of himself that he felt like he needed to ignore or shun. And it's not that Riku is saying that he's perfect the way he is, because he's not. He admits that there's still a part of him that's struggling. But he's not gonna sit and wallow and throw a one-man pity party. He's going to move forward. He's going to improve himself. It's just that the image of self-improvement may not look the same as everyone else's. If you want to see an entire game focus around this struggle, the game Celeste has a very similar message. One of embracing the parts of you that you might at one point have deemed weak or wrong, and in the end, coming out the other side stronger for it. Now, if only all the scenes in this game didn't constantly talk about how Riku is smelling the darkness, it would be perfect. While I would make the argument that Riku's story arc peaks in Chain of Memories, that's not to say that it ends there. Eventually, Riku does allow the darkness to overwhelm him, and it causes his physical form to change into that of Ansem. But I think it's worth noting that even in this moment of Riku, quote, losing himself to the darkness, he still retains his personality. Despite his appearance and how people initially perceive him becoming drastically different, he is still him. And no amount of darkness will ever really change that. And no matter what he looks like, his friends will still accept him regardless. Because while he may walk the road to dawn, he is by no means walking the road alone. And I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Riku has gone from being cocky in his abilities to being confident in himself. Anyone who truly understands the ocean of difference between bravery and courage will tell you what a difference cocky is from confident. In fact, Riku is so confident in who he is as a person and his understanding of the darkness within himself that he is freely using dark powers in Dream Drop Distance, and yet, Xehanort says that because of his unique use of darkness, he no longer is a viable option as a target for his schemes any longer. And between his heroics in that game and despite, or indeed because of his use of his own darkness, he is awarded a position of Keyblade Master, which is pretty cool. But it's Chain of Memories where we see the most growth and the most change from him. And it's Riku's journey during Chain of Memories specifically that helped me cope with depression. For a long time, I always saw my own darkness as something that needed to be pushed down, if not outright wrestled with. I would go into incredibly long depressive episodes where I would struggle with myself. I would isolate myself from loved ones. If I was lucky, I would give myself some form of release in crying fits, and all the while I would see these feelings as this monster that was winning in a fight that I had no chance of even competing in. The voice in the back of my mind would not let up in telling me how horrible of a person I was. It was during one of my particularly hard times that I played the PS2 version of Chain of Memories, and Riku's story about struggling with his own darkness and eventually coming to accept it as part of himself spoke to me on a very, very deep level. And most important of all, it wasn't gone, and he wasn't magically better. It was still something he had to deal with in his day-to-day, but it made me feel like this darkness could, if seen from a certain point of view, be used as a source of good. I started to see the voice constantly criticizing me as a motivator to do better. I saw the extended periods of darkness as an appreciation for the light in my life, and it helped me appreciate the value of my friends and family. And I'm not saying I used to have mental health issues and then I did a Kingdom Hearts about it and now I'm all better. I mean, look at the title of this video. It says cope. Not cure, not beat, cope. To this day, I still struggle with depression and anxiety. I just don't feel as helpless now as I once did. No matter how good a video game or any other piece of media may be, that's no replacement for actual therapy. If anyone watching this is struggling with their own darkness, I strongly encourage them to reach out and seek help. Riku taught me that my own darkness didn't need to be an enemy for me to constantly fight against. It didn't need to be chains that were holding me down. It was just another aspect of myself and nothing to be ashamed of. Riku taught me that no matter how much you may wallow in the darkness, there's nothing to be afraid of. That there will always be a light to welcome you back when you're ready. That no matter how bad things seem, there's always a road to dawn.